This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
I'm Mike Hebert, owner of Cantex Roofing and Construction. Every day is game day, and we'll get it right when it comes to your roofing, construction, windows, and mirrors. Call Cantex Roofing and Construction today. Together, we are one serving you.
Hey, good morning. It is the Morning Drive on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. The docket today will feature Lady Raider basketball. It's Education Day today. So the kids will get educated over there at the arena.
Educated in...
That's field trip. Get you out of... I mean, it's education. I mean, it gets them exposure to a college campus and, you know, gets, you know, some of these kids that maybe have never been to the arena inside the arena. And, you know, kind of gets them ingrained, indoctrinated, you know, all those kinds of things.
I was going more for educated in the value of, you know, mom gave you $10. Okay, you can get popcorn and what else?
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
So figuring out, you know, now don't get the most expensive thing because then you're not getting anything else, right? You know? And don't get the chicken fingers because you can't, if you only got $10, you can't get a drink too.
Right.
Or maybe the educated in how to eat cotton candy without having wipies from mom nearby. So how to eat the cotton candy without getting all over your fingers and all over your shirt and all that good stuff.
Right.
Or even like the importance of standing in line next to someone. Maybe it's the cute girl, like you accidentally stand in line next to her because you know they're going to sit you in that order,
right?
And so you get to sit
kind of
next to her.
You maneuver your way through.
Yeah, see, these are all things that I think that's what they're being educated about. You know?
Sure, right.
You know, how to break a press or you know how to run a 1-2-2 zone. Probably not going to learn that today. Right. Yeah, but those things I think are valuable life lessons.
They would learn that if they listen to our fine radio broadcast today. We'll have coverage on both 100.7 The Score and on 107.7 Yes FM. Coverage begins at 11. Tip time is at 11:30. Jamie, they're expecting 13,000 kids at the arena today.
Yes.
And from basically, I think at least 60 miles out, maybe a little bit more. So if you're going to the arena today, I mean, strategy for you if you're a townie. Make sure that you get there just a little bit early because the school buses have a tendency to clog up the lanes. If you have a north side parking pass, my advice to you is to come through campus and enter on the north end as opposed to going down Indiana and trying to maneuver it that way. Just because it's been my experience that you get yourself behind these school buses and you're in a long line, and good luck to you. So. Today's opponent is Incarnate Word, and we may have a word on them or two, but they are a very methodical, patient team that is very well disciplined, doesn't turn the ball over, and so they try to limit possessions and kind of not necessarily take the air out of the ball, but they're just a mechanically good basketball team. So you have that to work with today, and then for the Lady Raiders, the distraction of what they're going to go through later on this week. It's not, don't feel sorry for them because they're headed to Maui on Friday. And so the distraction in their mind of, okay, just got to get through this game. And then we can get on an airplane and go to the beach for a couple of days before they start playing games next week against Tulsa and Oregon State in Maui. So they'll be looking forward to that. And they're coming off of finals, and Coach Gerlich did say yesterday that they're, I think, just kind of mentally kind of worn. She didn't use the word mentally worn out, but just kind of. I think just kind of, and I wouldn't say brain is full or anything like that, but just, you know, the exhaustion or the stress or the whole process of going through finals. So just that. But they'll be on the floor today. Tip is at 11:30, and again should have a great crowd. Just a couple things about last night. Continuing on. Tech with 3 in double figures last night, led by Warren Washington. He had 18 points. If you'd have told me, like if you'd have covered up the score sheet and said, how many shots did Warren Washington miss last night? And these were all point blank. I sure thought he missed more than 2, but the box score says 8 of 10 last night. Now, granted, I'm sitting in the upper deck and trying to be, concentrating on what I'm doing, and really not. There wasn't anybody around us. I mean, there's literally nobody in front of us, beside us, behind us. But we had some.
What was that? Some sort of Russian torture for you?
We had people come by and say hi, like our friend Carl from California. He was at the game. So Carl in Lubbock, he came over and shook my hand, and I know I didn't even get to have discussions with anybody around me about what are they doing down there, or anything like that. So it was like wow, so it was pretty crazy. But he played 30 minutes. He had a double. He had 18 points and 12 rebounds. He only turned it over 3 times. He did have an assist. He did have a block shot, and his plus minus was the highest of the team.
When you lose a player, one that's as important as Devin Cambridge was to the Red Raiders, it's not all about one guy. You just need everybody to kind of step up a little bit. And I thought you saw that from a few different guys last night, Warren Washington being one of them. We know he's have the potential to be a big-time impactor of the game, and it just feels like at times this year he's kind of faded away. You can go back to the Butler game where he was making silly decisions defensively out on the perimeter that got him quality time on the bench, and he just hasn't been as big of a factor. But I thought last night he played within himself, didn't try to do too much. And he's grabbing offensive rebounds and getting putbacks. He's there when somebody drives and kicks to him. He's finishing at the rim. I thought he was really good. I would also say Robert Jennings last night. I know he didn't shoot the ball well, 2 for 9, but I just like the way he battled underneath. And so, that's a guy that probably has been struggling with his confidence a little bit because he hasn't been getting much playing time. And to see him out there battle like that, I ended up with 8 rebounds for you last night. Probably 6 or 7 of them were off of his own missed shots, but I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but It feels like 3 or 4 of them probably were. Right. Anyway, I thought he was another guy that stepped up, and obviously Kerwin Walton getting into the starting lineup and continuing his fine shooting. So those were 3 guys that I felt like didn't just go overboard, just go crazy last night, but they stepped up their game a little bit, and that's what you need to see.
Man, is there a tougher guy than Joe Toussaint? I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I guess he got popped in the nose or the mouth because he went down and they took him off and he was bleeding pretty good. And then, I mean, you look up just a few minutes later and he's back out on the floor. He too did not have the best shooting night. He was 4 of 10. He had 9 points, but he had 4 defensive rebounds last night, and then he had 4 assists. He just turned it over 1 time. His plus minus was tied for worst on the team, but man, I think he's kind of a heart and soul guy for that team, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's something that it didn't take long to see as Red Raider fans. Like, this is the guy he's the straw that stirs the drink, Chuck. Yeah, Joe Toussaint is that guy.
Yeah, no doubt.
And you're right, he didn't play great last night, but I think he played better than what his number shows, it feels like.
Because, I mean, there's times when he has the ball in his hands and you're like, okay, well, he's gonna protect it. He played 34 minutes last night. I mean, they had 5 guys that played 30-plus minutes. Darion Williams, he played 34-42. Walton played 34-44. And then also with 30 minutes last night was Warren Washington, Pop Isaacs, and Joe Toussaint. So,
well, I mean, you played 8 last night. You're probably not getting as much from Lamar Washington as you thought you were going to. That would, if you were getting more from him, you might see Joe Toussaint, Pop sit a little bit more, but it looks like that's about what you're going to go with, an 8-man rotation now. And, you're in that point of the season when you're about to just play twice a week, and so you expect that these guys can play 30 minutes a game twice a week and be all right.
Yeah. 625, your reaction to things on the Yates Flooring Center chat line, Visual Edge IT hotline. This is the road to Shreveport as we get you ready for Texas Tech and Cal on Saturday night. I'll have coverage all week long, and then, of course, game day as well.
The Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3 is presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
One guy not going on the road to Albuquerque to Shreveport. That's the wrong direction. If you get on the road to Albuquerque, going to the bowl game, then I'm sorry, you better turn around, okay? Turn around.
Or have a really fast car, because you're going to have to do some skipping across the Pacific Ocean there.
Yes. The road to Shreveport, you go east, right? You go east. Miles Cole is going to skip the Independence Bowl, Jamie, the defensive end. He's going to focus on his pro football opportunities. Our friend David Collier first reported this, according to the AJ article. So that's disappointing.
I'll just ask you, Chuck, how does improving his draft stock happen from skipping the bowl game?
It doesn't, Jamie. Basically, what he's saying is, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to risk myself, so I'm not gonna go to the bowl game. I'm gonna pass. Hopefully, if he got any bowl swag, he gave that up. This is a guy that he went to high school in Shreveport. You would think that he would want to go back there and play in front of his hometown friends and family and old coaches and things like that. He also was a guy that spent 4 years at Louisiana Monroe and then 2 at Texas Tech. So he took all the benefits of being a college athlete, of a red shirt and a COVID year, but then says, not so much on playing in this bowl game. Disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if I'm fine with guys saying I don't want to get hurt or whatever, but just don't hide behind them preparing for the NFL draft. You're not preparing for the NFL draft, especially somebody that's a fringe player. You would want them to have more film on you, an opportunity for you to play really well and do all that against another Power 5 team and all that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I guess just fear of injury. I mean, then
that's what I'm assuming. I mean, that's what you have to.
Why should play any of the games?
Yeah. I mean, if you're hurt, okay. If you're hurt,
that's a different.
That's a completely different deal. It's like Jalen Hutchings. I mean, he had knee surgery. He's not going to be available. Yeah. You have other guys that have put themselves into the transfer portal that now are not available. Duran Bradley, Miles Price, Monroe Mills.
But you have 2 guys in the portal that are going to play for you.
Yeah, right.
Which I think is cool, and Cameron Valdez and Loic Fungee.
Yeah. So, and who knows? Maybe they'll kind of, upon further review it. Just listening, I've not talked to him or been around him or anything along those lines, or the team. Just from the standpoint of, it just kind of sounds like what you're hearing, that there may be an opportunity for him to come back, or he may choose to come back, or he might kind of try to walk back that portal entry.
Who are we talking about?
Loic Fungee.
Okay.
Just from kind of not even reading the tea leaves, just reading a couple of bites and things like that, things that Coach McGuire had to say. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. He may find that there's somebody there that would like to take him in, and that there might be a opportunity for him to have the old maybe change of scenery and things like that to see if that helps him a little bit.
Yeah, being a local guy, you would think he would love to stay, closer to home if possible.
Sure, but
I don't know, but some kids like getting away too.
It's not necessarily just gone for whatever reason. It's just not gone like you thought it was going to go with him, and that can happen. Sometimes guys top out in high school, or or the breaks of the game just don't go your way, or you don't take advantage of the opportunity. However it happens.
He's definitely dealt with some injuries. That's been a factor as well. Just quite honestly, you just weren't good in the passing game last year.
I mean, he had a chance. Another guy that's made a decision to come back, in addition to Taj Brooks, is Caleb Rogers. He's going to start on that offensive line on Saturday for Texas Tech. So he's going to use that last year of eligibility. And it's like why not? I mean, unless you've got this fantastic job lined up, and maybe you've chosen the girl that you're going to literally spend the rest of your life with, and you're ready to go off to Never Never Land, and she's got a job, and you've got a job, and you're ready to start a family and the whole deal. Or maybe you've already started a family. Who knows? I think a lot of people, when they look back at their college life, go, man, kind of wish I'd had that extra year. I kind of wish I'd stayed another year in college, just because I was having so much fun, and the stresses of real life and getting out in the real world, getting out of the bubble. It's not quite as fun as I thought it was going to be. I mean, my generation, those of us that are in our late 50s, early 60s, in my case, we had for the most part, unless you really screwed up in the classroom, you were getting out in 4 years. You either dropped out, got out in 4 years, or had maybe an extra semester because changed majors or something along those lines. Today's world is different because just of the expense of college and kids having to, hold a couple of jobs, or, it's just maybe the class schedule, and obviously what happened with the world shutting down, a couple of years ago. It's made it a little bit more difficult. It's not necessarily, you don't see it as often. I think you still see it. It's not maybe as common as it was then. It was uncommon to not get out in 4 years in my college years. But then when you got out and you went, oh damn, man, college was pretty fun. It's like, went out on the weekend. Could schedule your classes to maybe have afternoons, not go to school on Fridays, maybe have a part-time job, and, it's just like when you got out of school, you're like, oh, this is real life. That sucks. So, a lot of guys, I think my age, were like, man, I kind of wish I'd had that fifth year. But then maybe you might have those regrets as well. Like, why did I go back to school for a fifth year, for God's sake?
You're forgetting the part where you had to show up and sit in a classroom.
Right. No, you're right.
Listen to somebody talk. So
you're right.
Yeah, get me to the real world, please.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. It's just, but good for him. I mean, of coming back and see what
that should be helpful for the Red Raiders.
Yeah, see what can make it happen. Yeah.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. The road to Shreveport on Double T 97.3 and 100.7 The Score is brought to you by Pollard Ford, Hub City Body Shop, Viva Land Group, McGavick Nissan, Twin Peaks, and Wild West Harley Davidson.
Fellas, we'll have boots on the ground in Shreveport on Friday as we'll get you inside the skinny. Team leaves today for Shreveport, so they'll be there and getting ready for the ball game on Saturday night against the California Bears. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But first, here's Texas Tech men's basketball coach Grant McCaslin. His first thoughts after the game last night for the victory over Oral Roberts.
Oral Roberts, what a tremendous team. Coach Springman, my buddy over there, Sam Patterson that helps out the offense. So they're just hard to guard. And guarding the three-point line we knew was going to be the key to the game. And I thought we made it difficult in stretches, especially on McBride. Like McBride didn't get a lot of looks, and we guarded him well, but we just didn't do a good enough job guarding the three-point line, is the bottom line. But two areas that I felt like we could dominate. One was on the glass, 21 offensive rebounds, paint points. Felt like that was a big part of the game because they give up two-point field goals, and how could we leverage the rim? And I thought just the rebounding and our ability to get it to the paint really, and to get to the free throw line was a big part of this game.
Yeah, I mean, they had 23 second chance points last night, Jamie, and did a really good job of getting the ball into the paint. And Oral Roberts didn't attack the paint at all last night.
Yeah, just not in their game plan whatsoever. And Red Raiders did a much better job of it. You see guys like Darion Williams and Warren Washington having good nights, and you see those paint touches. You see the, you talked about it earlier, the second chance points and how you dominated in rebounding, and it's hard to win a basketball game when you're getting dominated in the lane, unless you're just on fire from 3-point range.
Yeah.
Again, their 3-point shooting kept them in it, but they needed a little bit more balance too.
Tech with 32 points in the paint. They had 16. They got a ton late. I mean, there was a point in time where they only had like 2. They got like 8.
Wasn't
probably
after the first possession, right?
Yeah, right. Well, it was in the second.
I know, I'm just messing.
I know,
with
second half of the second half.
It was late. You're absolutely right.
But the other thing is you had 25 second chance points. But here's the other thing is you scored, and there was a time when this was tied, like late in the game, because I kind of keep track of this. I drive my wife nuts, going, hey, I mean, I'm giving her analysis up there, and then I remind her, hey, I mean, you're getting stuff that like nobody else is getting. She's like, oh, just pinch me. Just, I can't, I just can't help myself here. But you scored on 36 possessions last night. Both teams had 63 possessions.
So you just sit there with your phone while you're at the game,
30,
looking at stats.
I'll look at some numbers. Yeah, well, I'll kind of look at some numbers. Here,
do you know other people who do this?
Probably not. 1.3. Well, you keep score during a baseball game.
Yeah, when I'm broadcasting it.
Like when you're at the game, right? You keep score. Like
when I'm broadcasting it.
But if you just went to the game, like if you went to a Ranger game, do you keep score?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, do you kind of? Well, I'm interested. Okay, I'm fascinated by that.
Okay.
But you scored on 1.3 points per possession. Anything over 1 is considered very good. Very good. Oral Roberts was at 1.2 points per possession last night. But the other thing, and this really disappointed me last night.
Yeah, probably both coaches defensively would not be at all happy with those numbers and feel like they didn't do a great job defensively.
Right. The one last thing here, 48. So that's going to be. You had, if I'm doing my math real quick here, right, you had 10 threes, that's 30 points, 18 free throws, that's 48, and then you had 32 points in the paint. That's 80 points. You had one mid-range field goal last night. One. There was a long stretch where you didn't have any. So I was hoping for 2 things last night. Tech to not have any mid-range 2s, and your opponent not to have any free throws.
And the rest of us were just, I don't know, hoping for a win.
Well, I was hoping for a win, too, but I'd kind of already assumed that.
And an entertaining game, which we got.
Yeah.
Which we got. That was Oral Roberts was good. I mean, the fact that they took K-State to overtime shows that they were a good team.
Sure.
So that I expected them to give the Red Raiders a challenge.
How about and I don't know, maybe it's the way that Oral Roberts was playing you last night, because how about the fact that you had just 1 turnover at the half and you finished with 8, and really you probably got 3 or 4 in the last, I don't know, well, you probably got 3 in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the basketball game, and damn near had a couple more. I mean, there were a couple of lucky duck breaks where the ball went off of their leg, and you're like, oh, man, that was. Nobody protested over there on the Oral Roberts bench, because usually a couple of those times it happened right in front of them. But you got the ball bounced your way a couple of times last night to keep it even from being, dicier. I never really was worried that you were going to lose the game. I never was worried. I never felt like, but there were a couple of times like, whoo, man, that ball rimmed off there. That spun out there. Yeah, spun out a couple times.
If that 3 had gone in to cut it to 3 with a minute to go, I'd have started to tense up a little bit.
A couple more things here from Coach McCaslin, at least one. Here's Coach McCaslin on Kerwin Walton's game last night.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I'll tell you about Kerwin is his size and the way he's moving really is big. And what we've challenged him on is the defensive intensity and rebounding, and his effort. We chart it every day, every practice, and every game. And his effort in those areas is just taken off. And that's why he's playing, I think, so good. But the one thing I thought was underrated about what he did, he made the right plays. I mean, it wasn't just shooting threes. He was driving to the paint and making simple plays and making open passes. And other than that stretch at the very end, I thought, our ability to get Kerwin moving, and he was attacking the basket too, was a big lift.
I've always felt like he was a pretty good defender. Mm-hmm. Just last year he couldn't make shots, and that was what he was really known for. And he couldn't make shots, so he was never on the court long enough to really show you that he's a pretty good defender. But there were two things last night that jumped out to me is that, like Coach was saying there, make good decisions and make the right play or whatever. I felt like he, some guys that are shooters, 3-point shooters, they're just 3-point shooters. And I felt like he did a great job of, there were times where they were trying to take the three away and he put it on the floor and went towards the rim, which is what you want to see. Exactly what Pop's doing right now with his shot not falling from the outside. He's trying to be a little bit more aggressive going to the basket. He still didn't have a great night shooting. But that was something I didn't expect to see with Kerwin. And then the hustle play. He made that one great hustle play out near half court where he dove and got a loose ball and then flipped it up to to Warren Washington, who finished at the other end for, I can't remember if that was an and one or not. Anyway, for a bucket. And so that was a big hustle play. So I just think he's doing a lot of things right now that are helping the team. And by no stretch do I think it was good to lose Devin Cambridge. But if it leads to Kerwin Walton playing more, getting more confidence, and starting to be the player that he was his freshman year in North Carolina when he was a stud for them, then ultimately this might help you a little bit in that regard.
Yeah, and so it I don't know, it wasn't a well-oiled machine, but I mean you did a lot of things nice last night.
I agree.
You did a lot of things nice last night.
Well, normally a team sometimes one of these schools that you expect to beat badly. Mm-hmm. And you only win by 6, and you're like, oh, man, you were sloppy and you played terrible. I mean, sometimes you tip the cap to them and say, they shot the ball well. And like as Coach McCaslin said, they probably wanted to defend a little bit better. But I thought that was more about Oral Roberts than you playing poorly. I didn't think you played poorly last night.
Took care of the basketball, didn't make silly fouls, and at the end of the day, you get the win there. Next in action on Saturday, they'll take on Vanderbilt in Fort Worth at the Dickies Arena. We'll have coverage for you on 100.7 The Score. That'll be at 5:30, and the tip is at 6:30 from Fort Worth. In the meanwhile, we'll have Optimum Game Day Live going on Double T 97.3.
Your daily dose of sports and fun. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
We'll get on the road to Shreveport at 8 o'clock and talk some Red Raider football as the team leaves today for Shreveport. They'll play on Saturday night against the California Golden Bears. That'll be 7 o'clock, about 8 o'clock kick. We'll have coverage 8:15, have coverage all day long on Double T 97.3 on Saturday and all week long here on the road to Shreveport. 6:45. Tomorrow we'll have this day in sports history. Today at 7:45, we'll have the boom, boom, boom. I was thinking to myself, it has gone so smooth this morning. Like
Time now for Jenny's question of the day on Lubbock Sports Station. Double T 97.3.
I just T-boned you. It was going so well. It was like an award-winning show. It was like a Marconi award-winning effort.
Okay, well, I'll try to get it back off the track.
Thank you. Back on the track.
No, I said off. Two-parter, but very simple, I feel like.
Okay.
I want you knowing who's coming back, who's leaving, who's coming in. You're adding to the mix, all the above. I want you to tell me the position group that you're most confident in next year for the Red Raider football team and the one that you are most nervous about.
Okay. Oh, man. What am I confident about? Confident about the kicker, Gino Garcia. I'm confident about him.
That's a good answer.
I'm confident about Gino Garcia. I'll take Gino, and then I'll take a bit of a low-hanging fruit here. Oh, that's if I'm confident. Then what am I worried about? Okay, what am I worried about? I'm worried about the offensive line because I think you're always worried about the offensive line. It seems like you've got some defections, and for what you thought was going to be really good this past year, it was good for the run game, not so much for the passing game. Or was that more on the receivers and the quarterback not being healthy? Whose fault was that? Chicken egg kind of deal. Jeff?
Confident? Taj Brooks. I don't think I need to say anything else there.
Yeah,
I think you're
with regards to confidence. Concern, and the concern is more of I don't know what it's going to look like. I have faith that it's going to be okay, but you're losing an awful lot in your defensive backfield that you're having to replace. And you've got some young guys there that have played well for you a little bit. And from what Joe McGuire was talking about when we talked to him earlier, that they're looking at some guys in the portal. But you've lost an awful lot of experience from a very good defensive backfield that has been one of the keys to your defense. So worried isn't how I would describe it. Interested to see where that goes. But I'm not sure it's going to be the strength it has been in the few recent seasons.
Okay, for me, I'm going to go. I think you guys both had really good answers. I think Gino and Taj, I mean, those are really good ones. Okay, I think I'm the most concerned about the defensive line. You're losing two studs that stop the run, and you've been really good stopping the run the last couple of seasons. So I think that's something I'm concerned with, and I still feel like you got to find somebody that can get to the quarterback off the edge. We really haven't seen enough of that at this point. So concerned there. I think just one level behind them is where I'm the most excited. Okay, and most confident, and that's the linebacking core. It just feels like, man, you've got a good group of young linebackers that I think are going to be terrific for the next couple of seasons. So really excited to see how those guys continue to progress, and obviously they're going to need to play big if your defensive line is struggling a bit. Yeah,
no, I think those are two good answers. What both you and Jeff said. Do you have a way too early one loss record for the Red Raiders? I thought that's where you're going when you initially started talking. I thought, maybe he's gonna ask us what our early one loss record is.
Let me look at the schedule first.
Okay. And by the way, when I looked at the schedule on yesterday on one deal, and it's not official yet, but one schedule has us playing on September 7th at Washington State.
I just looked at that and saw that same thing.
So I don't know that that's official yet, but that's kind of where you are. And then the other thing I looked at yesterday was like, we play at Arizona. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a Big 12 game this year. I was like, wow, we got 2 Power 5s. No, that's a Big 12 game. Mm-hmm. You'll play at Arizona, at Iowa State, at Oklahoma State. Then you'll play at TCU. And then you're at home against Arizona State, Colorado, Baylor, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. So kind of crazy there. You have the 7 home games, right? Is that how that works out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, you have 7 home games next year, as it stands right now.
Okay, I'll take a 3-0 non-con.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put you at 3-3 after Oklahoma State.
Mm-hmm. You have us losing at Oklahoma State?
Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking 7-5. Just that was my first kind of glance at things.
Man, of the last 6.
Well, these are not necessarily the dates. The Big 12 games haven't been announced yet.
Oh, the dates have not.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had Arizona, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State as losses. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that would put me at 3-3.
Yeah.
I look at the other 6.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you losing any of them?
Arizona State, Colorado, Baylor, Cincinnati, and West Virginia.
I mean, West Virginia, Cincinnati, Baylor, Colorado, Arizona State, all at home, and 1 at TCU.
Mm-hmm.
I got 9-3.
9-3. Okay. Wow. Sign me up for that. I'd take that today. Man.
I don't actually think that you'll win all of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
you got North Texas at home. God, why do we do this? Why do we do this to ourselves?
Because they hate you.
Because we're way better than them.
Okay.
And because what happened in 1996 will not
99,
affect
99,
whatever.
Yeah.
Will not affect 2024.
I can already just prepare you for,
How much we're going to have to hear about it that week.
Optimum Game Day Live on September the 14th.
I feel like I'm coming down with something that week.
Maybe one of the daughters will have an activity somewhere. You'll be like,
so.
You hope so. You're going to call all their coaches. I don't care what it takes. I will help fund it. But on September the 14th, I need you guys to have an activity for me about 4:00 in the afternoon.
Actually, let's walk it back to about the 10th. Let's get the whole week out of the way.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction.
Really, you got to get stuff done so that you can kind of screw around next week. It's the day the work gets done. So that you can enjoy the next, couple of weeks or whatnot. I mean, there'll be plenty of people grinding it out, the rest of this week and all of next week. And then some have to grind it out, holiday week and stuff like that. But, there's sometimes times where you got to kind of buckle down, right? This is one of those buckle down times over the next couple of days. Mm-hmm. Not next 2 or 3 days. Just
so
buckle
no
down.
Stamps in your pocket right now.
Oh no, none whatsoever. I tell you, I scrambled like
eggs.
Fran Tarkenton yesterday, just all over the place. I was just all over the place. Do you know who Fran Tarkenton is? I mean, do you remember him as a quarterback? That's okay. That's all right.
I absolutely know who Fran Tarkenton is. But I wasn't born yesterday.
I know. Did you? I mean, didn't know if you knew that you. I mean, didn't know if you remembered seeing him play or not. But he was like a scrambler.
I don't know if I ever saw him Tarkenton play, but I do know that he's. I mean, all of the records that Randall Cunningham broke for rushing yards for a quarterback were all Fran Tarkenton's.
Fran Tarkenton's, yeah. I'm about to make an admission on something of a hill that I've stood on for 30 years. And I'm not going to say I'm wrong, okay?
And now, from Morning Drive Update.
I am not going to say that I'm wrong. I'm just going to say I'm temporarily removing my staunch opinion on this because I got to admit it was pretty cool what the Texas Tech football team did yesterday. They held for I think it was 19 graduates. They held a graduation ceremony for them because the team's not going to be here because they're playing in a bowl game. They're not going to be here for Tech's graduation ceremony. And they did this at the Frazier Alumni Pavilion. And just from the pictures, I've not seen it. There's not been any news release on this. There's just been pictures on Facebook by Texas Tech football, and I would assume on Twitter and Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But they dressed up, or it looks like they dressed up really nicely, Frazier Alumni Pavilion. And then Dr. Lawrence Skubinik spoke, and I got to tell you, I have never seen this. The head football coach, Joey McGuire, wearing regalia, graduation regalia, and they had a formal ceremony for those guys.
Why would you have seen Joey McGuire wearing that?
No, I said any football schedule, any football coach. Okay. Any football coach or any coach of any manner. I mean, I'm not saying they've never done it. I've just never seen it. But I just thought, you know what? That's pretty damn cool. And I know that, I have, stood on this hill for years and years and years and years and years. And really the reason I've stood on that hill is because baseball teams, high school baseball teams, sometimes go out of their way so that they can have their own little special deal when they could schedule games to go around the state playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm gonna put that aside for the moment. I'm just gonna say this was really cool. What Texas Tech did yesterday for their graduating seniors for the football team.
I too think it's very cool. I think you could have skipped the whole thing about your hill and just said it's cool that Tech football did that.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
yeah.
Because I was just anticipating the criticism, you're kind of being a little hypocritical there. So I was just pointing out my own internal flaw, on that, and just saying this is really. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, just you buried the lead.
Yeah,
you buried the lead.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bury the lead.
Yeah, your intent was to compliment Tech football for doing what they did.
Yeah,
and I completely agree with you. I think that's cool. Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, it's awesome that the players got an opportunity because it's not like they really have a choice.
Right.
And we wouldn't want, if any of them said, yeah, I'm not going to play in the bowl game because I want to go to graduation, we'd all be like, well, why did we give you a scholarship?
What are we doing here, right? What are we doing?
Yeah. So,
what are we doing?
Yeah. So I think it's great that Tech and the football program, I don't know if that was pushed by the football program or I don't know if the university did it, whatever. I think it's awesome.
I think it was pushed by the I don't know whose idea. I don't know whose idea it was. Okay,
yeah. That's great.
All I know is that I think it was pushed by the head football coach because, look, if you're going to say nothing happens without the head football coach knowing about it from a bad standpoint, then you're going to have to. You should also say nothing happens from a good standpoint without at least the head football coach knowing about it. And he made a point to being there, and the president of the university made a point of being there, and I think that's really cool. I think it's just really cool what they did and how they did it and just the pictures look awesome. I mean, it looks and it looks like it was and I don't know if maybe some parents were able to go to that, but it looks relatively well attended. Just from what I saw, and there was. Not that I'm aware of any there was no news release on this, that they were doing this. It's not like Texas Tech, football patted themselves on the back. I mean, there was to put some pictures out on their social media accounts, which is fine, which is good. I'm glad they did that because these guys are student athletes. For all the talk about, NIL and pay for play and, all this, at the end of the day, you're here to get a college education. At least that's what the hope is, right?
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them, not all of them.
Yeah. This from Syntax Hank. Chuck, you don't have to point out your flaws. We're more than happy to do it for you.
Which is why I think Chuck felt the need to say something.
Yeah.
Because someone on the chat line would have brought up the high school baseball teams. How would that be different?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
anyway, the bottom line is it was cool. So just leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. Anyway, they'll play in Shreveport on Saturday. What if you had to list like a couple of concerns? What would they be? Your concerns would be offensive line. Would they be defensive line because you got one guy out injured and one guy now not going to play? Do you kind of go into this thinking it's a 50-50 opportunity to win the game, or are you still reasonably confident? Or maybe not confident at all?
Well, I'm still below, 5 on my confidence level out of 10, so I wouldn't say I'm super confident. I guess I just the departures have me a little bit worried that you're playing so many new players in some key spots, and I don't know what you're gonna get. I don't know. I don't know which team's gonna be more excited to be there, all that good stuff. But the departures definitely have me a little bit worried.
This has been the Morning Drive Podcast, presented by Cantex Roofing and Construction. Check out our library of Double T 97.3 podcasts at doublet97.3.com.